Hey, my friends. It is so great to be together. I am glad that you are here, and I am here with the wonderful Mr. Peter Stout
Good morning,
and the
everybody.
incredible Diana Shine.
Hi.
Good morning. How are you guys doing? Oh no, Diana's microphone cut out for a second. Okay,
I'm sorry,
well, this
Diana.
happens every once in a while. It'll come back. We know how to fix this. But you guys, this is a great day. This is going to be how to paint atmosphere, and super super excited that you're here with us today. And I also just wanted to give anybody who is a member of Acrylic University a quick shout out today. And I wanted to say, if you are a member of Acrylic University, I know there's a lot of people who are not, and they don't necessarily know what Acrylic University is. They don't know if they would benefit from being part of it or not. But if you're part of Acrylic University, I'd love to just have you shout out in the chat. And for those of you who are kind of like wondering, or maybe you didn't know, but we have open enrollment. It just opened up today. Peter, that's pretty awesome, isn't it?
That is pretty awesome. We're super excited.
We're very
Yeah.
excited because we know that when we get people to come in, we see their lives get better. Like it's just awesome. Like your art is going to get transformed, and we see so many people. Like it's on several different levels, but it's like you get to learn things, you get to experience things, you get to put it into practice in your own art, you get to see the world with new eyes, and you discover things about yourself that you didn't know. You get to connect with artists from all over,
Yeah.
and there's like all these cool connections that
And
people have.
yeah,
Go ahead.
the connection is a big one, right? Because when you join a group with a bunch of other people, it's a lot easier to stay consistent with your art or whatever you're working on because there's people doing it with you and you want to join in and don't want to get left out, you know?
Oh
Yeah.
man, it is such a huge part of everything. Um, I mean, there it is. Yeah, look at that. Oh gosh, look at that. Oh man, lifetime member. So, anyways, you guys, we're excited because we have the doors open for enrollment right now, and that is only happens like 2 or 3 times a year that we even are able to do this. And one of the reasons we do it is we like to bring people in at the same time, and then we can walk you through things together. You can kind of come in as a cohort and get to know each other and that kind of thing. So that's really fun. But I also, is Diana back? Oh, hey, let's see if we get
we're gonna
Diana
see.
back, because I
There.
wanted
There
to.
we go.
Yay!
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
All right, good.
So we've got a really great teaching from Diana, and then I'm gonna do a demo for you guys, and I think you'll find this a really fun subject because it's atmosphere, and the idea of just creating a little bit of mystery and a little bit of depth in your painting. It's so important that I think it was Monet. I think he said, "Without atmosphere, a painting is nothing." Like that's pretty strong words, right? So, Diana, I want to ask you a little bit about atmosphere, but right before you go into that, tell us what you think a benefit for somebody, and maybe some of the changes that you've seen in people who are taking your classes and participating in Acrylic University. What have you seen?
Well, one of the things that I really worked on to create classes and courses at Acrylic University is to take out all of the confusing stuff and get right to the bones of things and make it easier for people to progress fast. And that's what I've seen. Jed, you do it too, but really, really amazing transformation in artwork from day one to, just a few months in, and then a few years in. People have gone from not having painted in 30 or 40 years to winning awards at art shows and loving the work they do. And it's been a wonderful feeling to know that we have influenced people in that way and created this sense of self and this sense of pride of hard work. And it's been a beautiful ride for me. And I am always grateful to be part of the staff here. It's wonderful.
Well, yeah,
Thank you, Diana.
Yeah, Diana is, as you guys know from the workshop so far, Diana is such an incredible artist and incredible teacher.
Mhm.
Like everything about Acrylic University has been made 1,000 times better because of Diana and her not just the ability to teach, but she does it with joy and love
She
and
really
kindness.
does, yeah.
And unlike me, when I get in the classroom, you'd better watch out. No, just joking. But anyways, you guys, we're gonna jump into the workshop today. So Diana, um, I'm going to. Can you just talk real briefly about about the the idea of atmosphere? I know you're going to go into it in this teaching, but I'll just give you a little chance to say anything that you think about atmosphere before we jump into your teaching.
Well, when we're thinking about atmosphere in a landscape, it's if you look up in the sky, we think of that's the atmosphere, but it's actually everything. We're breathing it. And we look out across the landscape, we're looking through it. And so, we can usually see it more clearly when there's smoke or air pollution or fog or something, but it's there. When you're looking at distant mountains or trees that are going back in space, the thing that's creating the distance in our mind is we're looking through layers of atmosphere. And I really want to address that in this teaching, is how you get that feel of looking into real air.
Awesome. That is so good. Okay, so now I'm going to just show you guys. You guys know where we are. This is Landscape Workshop Challenge. We are on session 3 here today, and you're going to have the weekend to get caught up, because I know a lot of you will watch this afterwards, and so you might be taking a little break at work to watch it as much as you can live. And I just want to say, awesome. So glad you're here and doing that. Or you're maybe just able to catch up with the actual viewing of this, in the evening or something like that. And that is totally awesome too. And we're trying to give you guys some space, like over the next couple days. We want you to be able to submit your paintings because we have that celebration on Monday. So I want you to put that in your heads. Mark it on your calendars. Make sure you come back, because we're going to give away a lot of prizes on Monday, like a lot of good stuff. Like we give away a $200 gift card, like that stuff. But Monday is like the big one. And so just want to make sure you know about that. Like I mentioned, we have our membership opening. And this is a question I want you to consider, is just what if you were flourishing in a vibrant art community? What would your life be like? What would your days be like? I was looking back at some quotes that we get a lot of emails from people, and one of the things that comes up quite a bit is like people saying, I so look forward to the Fridays when we get to hang out together. I so look forward to these things, and that's pretty awesome for us. So we're going to jump into this today. This is a thing where, like I said before, Diana's going to do teaching and I'm going to do the demo. So are you ready for this? Shout it out, you guys. I want to see it in the chat, and then we'll just have Peter's going to roll the teaching, and we're going to get in here, but we need to see from you guys. All right. Look at that, man. Gosh, I got to highlight some of these things. I love it so much. I can't. It's too complicated for me right now, but you guys, okay, here we go. Let's jump into it, Peter.
Let's do it.
We're talking about atmospheric perspective, and what does that mean? What does atmosphere mean? A lot of us think that atmosphere just means weather, but atmosphere is so much more than just fog and clouds and rain and weather. It's the actual air that envelops everything we see all the time. When we think about it, air is made out of particles, and the particles are lit by the sun. So let's take a look at some ideas about the ways that atmosphere affects the depth of our paintings. When we're in a plane, we can easily see the layers of atmosphere. We're looking through the air itself, and the air is creating a thicker and thicker and thicker event until the mountains disappear into the sky beyond. That's actual sky we're looking through. And in a plane, it's easy to see because we're looking at miles and miles and miles into the distance. So I need to find a way to describe this event to artists. So when we're painting a landscape or painting any kind of a painting that has a sense of distance, we can allow ourselves to be involved. It's not just a backdrop, it's part of the scene we're creating. So here's the way I describe it to my students. Think of atmosphere as if it were a transparent shower curtain that we drop between our eyes and the distance. Then when we look through more atmosphere, another shower curtain drops. And we look through more atmosphere and another shower curtain drops. That's sort of the way to think about how atmosphere changes color, changes the value of the colors you're using, and changes the intensity or brightness of the colors you're using. Here is the image in just the absolute raw data to create a sense of atmosphere, and I'll talk about it further in just a second. But here are some mountains in Tuscany, and you can see the atmosphere here isn't blue like I lowered before. It is a sort of a warm, purpley color. Each hill going back into the sky becomes a little more sky colored. We're actually looking through the sky to the mountains in the back. And we can easily see the veils of atmosphere as they descend, as we progress through the mountains. A lot of times it's easier to think about atmosphere when we're talking about real mist or water vapor. You can see how the water vapor we're looking through makes a mystery in the back mountains. It erases the edges of trees, it erases details, it makes things invisible or barely visible. And that's sort of the way we need to think about atmosphere as it changes things for our paintings. Here's another scene in Italy, a tree and some mountains beyond. Let's take a look at 3 tools that create atmospheric perspective. These 3 tools are the value jump and the value of shadows, the temperature of the color, and the intensity of the color. Let's look at this. Here's our image. In the far distance, I've created a little box around the mountains, and then I've put them close to the foreground. Let's take a look at these. I put a little value scale between the foreground and background. You can see in that back mountain, barely, that it is composed of fields and trees, the same kinds of fields and trees as in the foreground, but the value jump between light and dark is just a 1 jump from a light value to a little bit darker light value. In the foreground, the values jump 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 values from light to dark. And that value jump tells our eyes that these things are closer. The limited value jump tells us that those things are further away. So the value jump is minimized in the distance. The distance is also cooler, meaning a little bluer, and the colors are duller. In the foreground, the value jump is larger, The foreground colors are warmer, meaning they tend more towards yellow or orange, and the foreground is brighter. Let's take a look at some more. Value jump. Let's look at how the jump between light and dark values affects the way we see distance. Here are some lovely women walking down a path in Italy, and I've circled a foreground piece and I've circled a background piece. Let's take a look. Inside that background hillside, there are trees and some orchards and grasses, very similar to what's in the foreground. I've numbered the value scale from 1 to 9, white 1 and 9 is black. And you can see that in the background, the value is jumping from a number 3 to a number 4 value. It's a 1 value jump. In the foreground, the values are jumping from a number 2 value to a number 8 value in the little section that I've cut out. This tells our eye that atmosphere, that the actual air in the valley has created a block, has blocked out some of the values, has blocked out some of the color. Here's a painting by John Hammond, a wonderful acrylic painter in Europe. And I'm just going to take a little section out of the foreground and the background of his painting. And we're going to see the difference in the value jump between objects in the foreground and the value jump between objects in the background. There is a big value jump between light and dark in his foreground piece, and a very small value jump between light and dark in the background piece. This is a painting that I did in the Skagit Valley called The Show Is Starting. And the yellow daffodils really impair the way we see values, so I'm going to turn this into grayscale. The background, or the backdrop, is not very far away. I could walk there in like maybe a minute and a half. It isn't a far distant background. So I'm going to take a look at this. We'll grab a little piece of the foreground. We'll grab a little piece of the background and set them side by side. And let's take a look. In the foreground, we have values all the way from light to black, all 9 values. In the background, we have values from white to about mid-value. It shows that we're looking at things not very far away, but still farther away than the foreground. In this painting by John Singer Sargent, I want to just look at the little figures on the left-hand side. There they are. I've singled them out. Let's blow them up so we can look at them. This is a watercolor. The figures were actually quite close together in the painting, but you can see the figures that were in the foreground are painted a little bit darker than the figures that were just slightly behind them, giving us a sense of perspective. Here's a painting that I did many years ago called Still Life in Teal. And I was looking out a window from my studio, and to create that sense of distance, I exaggerated the value jump in the background. So here you can see that the value jump is large. And here in the background, even though that background is just about 1.5 feet away, I exaggerated the value jump so that it would retreat into the background. Now we can see how actual sunlight itself creates atmosphere. Doesn't have to be clouds in the way or dust or dirt in the air. The sunlight itself actually ate a hole in this mountain and created a veil of atmosphere that creates a value difference between the foreground and the background. The next thing I want to talk about is the temperature of colors. When we talk about color temperature, we're going to imagine that everything that has red and yellow in it as a major component is a warm color, and everything that has blue in it as a major component would be considered a cool color. So let's take a look at this picture from Maine of some rocks and water. I've covered the foreground rocks with a blue covering, and I'm going to remove it now to show you how warmth, or the warmth of our color, creates a sense of distance. When I remove the blue covering, you can see that the rocks are very close to the viewer and that the water is very far away. You get a real sense of how far you'd have to jump into that water. Okay, I'm not going to do it, but you can really see when I put the covering back, you don't have a real sense of distance here. You kind of know the rocks are further away, the big rocks are further away than the water, but when we see the warmth of the rocks right up close, we know that it's quite a distance. Here's another image that I took, and we can see the foreground is quite detailed, and the background goes away into the dist. The value jump is there between dark and light. But let me remove the blue mist, and we can see warm colors jump forward. When colors are warmer, they tend to pop closer into the foreground. In this picture, where it's an evening, there's a lot of mist in the air, I'm just going to look at this little villa and then look at some of the background behind it, and then some of the mountain behind that. And we can see that the yellows, or the yellows inside the greens, are brighter yellow and warmer than the greens in the second left-hand circle. And everything is warmer than the greens in the background. The greens have almost disappeared and faded into blue. The background mountains have become blue. If you squint, you can see that the mountains in the back are no longer green at all, even though they're covered with green grass. What's causing them to turn blue? Atmosphere. Here I want you to pay attention to the reds, because red is a very vibrant color and very warm. Let's look at reds as they go back in space. There's some reds over there. We'll move them up. There's some reds way in the back. Let's move them up. Take a look at what happened to the reds. They became cooler and cooler. The temperature of the reds, the heat of the reds, diminishes as the image gets further and further back in space. How do you do this with paint? Well, we'll look at it. In this one, the space between the flowers, this beautiful painting by Delgesh, a Washington artist, the space between the flowers and the backdrop is not very far. So in order to create a little sense of space, Del put a cool, dull-colored backdrop behind his sunflowers to give the sense that the sunflowers are pushing forward, reaching out towards the viewer, and the background is pushing back, even though it's just inches. Imagine if that background was bright yellow, the sunflowers would just disappear. In this painting by Sergei Bongard, he painted the sides of the brown shed purple to show that the distance between the foreground of the grasses in sunlight and the background of the shed in shadow. When I talk about intensity, I mean the brightness or dullness of a color. Let's take a look at what I mean by intensity. In this image, all the flowers are about the same distance from the viewer. When I reduce the intensity of some of the flowers, one flower looks as if it's closer to us. The flower on the left is more intense or brighter than the other flowers, and it looks a little bit closer to us. I took this picture of a cathedral in Prince Edward Island and this one. And just by the intensity of the color, you know that I was standing a long way away from the cathedral in the right-hand picture and just zoomed in on it. It's also a different time of day, but the intensity of the color shows that I was much further away. When we look at these tulips, they look all very bright and intense. But when I bring the background tulips forward, you can see that the tulips in the background are much duller, not nearly as brilliant and brightly hued as the tulips in the foreground. And here, once again in Italy, we're going to look at the intensity of the color between the foreground, grasses and plants, and the background. The background is much duller. The colors in the foreground are much brighter. And so you can see how when you shift intensity, you also can shift the way the viewer sees near and far.
Okay. So I just want to address something that I saw a question come up that really got me laughing here. Somebody said, "Who is Nightbot?" And I was just going to let you know.
Nightbot helps us help you.
Yes. Nightbot is essentially just a bot that we've trained
Post helpful
to
stuff.
give. Yeah.
And you can use
told it-
commands. You can use
Yeah.
exclamation colors, exclamation brushes, exclamation replays, and it'll give you information that you need to know. So
What we found is that people have the same questions depending on when you come into the chat. You might ask a question that was answered a bunch of times already, but when we have the Nightbot thing, and we can just type in a real quick command and it'll shoot out the answer for us. So
Exactly.
I wanted to just share my screen one more time and just say, as we're getting into the demo, you don't have to paint along. You can just sit back and relax. Okay, that's like the main thing that I wanted to say here. But I also wanted to show you guys, this is where you can go for all this stuff in case you missed it. Put it on the big screen, the landscapeworkshop.com. Don't forget the word "the." You got to go there. And if you want just an alternative way, you can always go to acrylicuniversity.com, and down just a ways, there's a link to that dashboard. And the dashboard really is where we're trying to put everything.
Yep.
So now, Diana, thank you for that. We're going to jump into the demo part of it. And a lot of the things that Diana talks about, somebody said, well, I heard a bunch of people say things like, I didn't quite fully understand this. And the idea of distance, we can kind of see, okay, like if there's a lot of atmosphere in between us, it will make a change, and like the blue will be more apparent, but the red and the yellow kind of go away. But when you have atmosphere in between you, like smoke or fog or mist or little droplets of rain, it will do that in a shorter amount of time or a shorter distance. So the picture that I'm going to paint is one of those. It's a little bit more, the atmosphere is compressed in a smaller space. So it's not a huge distance between us and what we're looking at the farther away trees, but it is just that there's a little bit of mist in the air. So anyways, Diana, thank you so much for that amazing teaching. I know it's very helpful. Yeah.
Good, good. Well, I know you're
So-
going to do an amazing demo. So,
Well, we'll see. We'll see. But hopefully it turns out. We don't know. No, anyways, Peter, go ahead and roll that. We'll see you guys
so
in
in
a
this,
little
we're
bit.
going to be looking at so in this, we're going to be looking at 3 different ways to create a misty and atmospheric kind of scene. And the first one is with zinc white. So it is a transparent white, and you can see through it a lot more than titanium white, which is very opaque. The second is the smudge, and whether that's with our finger and smudging that, or whether that's actually with the brush and figuring out a way to make that dry brush effect, that's going to help us create that atmospheric and misty feel. And the third way is through small, minute transitions in value. It's just these small value changes where you create distinct differences between layers, but they're subtle. They're distinct, but they're subtle. That's the key there. So we'll jump into the demonstration, and I'll try to point out these as we go. All right, so we have started with a gray canvas. Now, you don't need anything special. You could mix up some black and white and put down kind of a mid-tone. What I have is actually a little bit different, but it's just got a little bit more of a brown color in it, but it's essentially a gray. Now, I've mixed up some light green for these mossy areas that are on the rocks. And that is just simply the cadmium yellow light and ultramarine blue with a bit of white in it. And if I want to gray it down, which I do here and there in this, is I will just add a little bit of the cadmium red to it, and that will mute the color. It'll make it a little bit more gray. But I don't do that with every mix, but just every once in a while you might see me do this. As it gets closer, I want it to be a little bit darker. Some of these rocks are a little bit closer, and I also am bringing in a little bit more ultramarine blue to create more of a blue-green. You can see that I'm really just laying in the color. I'm kind of squinting my eyes, looking at the picture and thinking, where are the values at? And right now, what I'm doing is, you can see I'm grabbing my darks. I'm grabbing ultramarine blue with cadmium red, and I threw in some of that phthalo green that I have in my palette. And I know that for this scene, for it to have the effect that we're going for, like we want this to feel misty in the background there. But for that misty part to feel misty, to come across as being light and airy and atmospheric, we need something to ground the painting. And where the darkest values are, to my eyes, are primarily one of the greater places is these dark accents under the rocks, or on this side of the rocks. They're in the shadow. And so that's what I'm doing with this really dark color. As you can see, it's a colorful dark. It comes across perhaps as a pure black, but it does have a little bit of red in it. And so if you want to add a little bit of color, if you have black, I often do this for my darks, is that I just add a little bit of red to it. Maybe a little blue and red, but something that will kind of bring some color into the dark, because even the darkest accents usually have a little bit of color. But I'm looking and I'm squinting and I'm studying the reference, just thinking, okay, where are these darker values? what's going on. There's always a pattern and a shape, well, I should say there's a pattern that's made up of shapes. And because I have cropped this photograph, I have done a little bit of work thinking about the design already. I think that it should work as it is. I think that it should turn into a pleasing painting because I believe that the design is already a pleasing design. But if you are looking at something that you haven't, thought that through, or you might see some things that, oh, that could be different, that could be changed. These are the times when I'm squinting my eyes. That's one of the big things that I'm looking for, the shapes and the values and how they work together. As you can see, I've mixed up a lighter version. I've just grabbed some white into that darker color, and I'm creating the top of the rocks. This is slightly gray. It's still got a little bit of the colors mixed in there. So there's a little bit of red, a little bit of blue. It might be coming across slightly violet, but because it's pulled into the middle by combining all the primary colors, it has a grayish feel to it. It's definitely not purple or one just leaning one direction. It's a gray, kind of a mid-tone gray, but on our canvas it looking lighter. But as we go, we will layer, and this is part of the process for me, is just thinking through laying down the groundwork. In this initial stage, we have to get some of the darker colors in. We have to get some of the mid-tones adjusted. We're really just blocking in a lot of these colors right now. But what I like about painting on a mid-tone canvas or panel like we're doing instead of white is that I know where I want to put the atmosphere. There is no atmosphere there now, but I will be able to put it in, and it won't be anywhere except for where I put it. So I'm in complete control of where the light is going to come from. And so to me, that's a helpful thing often in a scene like this, is because I'm going to be doing layers. And a lot of times people will ask me, why do you paint the background later? Well, there, you wouldn't have to do it the way that I do. And I can imagine somebody else doing it a different way. But for me, I'm working in layers, and I'm working from dark to light. And so I'm thinking, what is the highlight area of the painting? There's not a lot of direct sunlight in this. Even though one of the trees on the left in the reference looks kind of like it's getting hit by sunlight, it's actually the bark of the tree that just is making it look like that. But the light is coming from behind. It's where the misty, airy, foggy kind of atmosphere is behind those trees and coming through where some of the trees are being enveloped in that mist. That's the lightest part of the painting to me. That's where I want people to look and to wonder and to think what's going on. So for me, because I like to leave that until the end, I tend to work from dark to light, and often that means I'm going to paint the foreground before I paint the background, because the background just usually, even like we're thinking about atmosphere in distance, the things that are further away generally are going to be lighter. The darks that are in the background, they're not going to be as dark as the things that are close to me. And so it's kind of the chosen way that I'll go about something like this. But I can also see some value in grabbing some lighter colors and not my highlights. I wouldn't do it with my highlights, but I might find value in doing some slightly lighter values in the back. And that's actually what I start thinking about doing, right? Is going, okay, how can we do this? Now, this is titanium white. I have not brought out any of the zinc white yet. But as I'm thinking, okay, where is my lightest value? I'm thinking, okay, let's get some of that in, but let's do it in a way that's maybe going to allow us to use and get some softer edges right off the bat. So that's why I sprayed it. I spritzed it with a little bit of mist, a little bit of water, and you can see I'm kind of coming back through and wiping off some of this with the paper towel that I have. And I'm also kind of working the motion of it to create verticals, right? All those trees in the back are vertical. And so you can see even now I'm grabbing that same exact color and I'm putting it on again. But because I've wiped off a layer of it underneath, we're already creating a little bit of atmosphere, right? We already have a layer. And so as we go, because we're painting on a mid-tone already, the color that we're going to put down as it dries, it's going to get a little bit darker. That's just the way that it is for two reasons. One, because we're going over a darker color. The ground, the mid-tone, the underpainting is already darker. So as this color that is on top, as it dries, that other color underneath it is going to show through a little bit. And so that's one of the reasons. And the other reason is that generally acrylics do dry just a slightly bit darker than when you first put them down. So for both of those reasons, the paint that I'm putting down now, it's going to be a little bit darker than what it looks like right now. Like right now, you might think, oh my goodness, that's the lightest light. But I for one thing, I have ultramarine blue mixed in with my white, so it has some pigment in there, and because of the reasons that I just mentioned, this is just like a layer. It's a layer of atmosphere, and this is when we start thinking about having small changes in the the difference between objects in the distance. That's what I'm talking about. It's like I know that this is not my lightest light. It's not my highlight. This is a white that has a bit of ultramarine blue in it. So therefore, it's going to allow me to come back over it with at least one, but probably more, like I could probably put 3 more layers of subtle, slightly different values over top of this. Like I can go lighter 3 more times and it will still show up on top of that color that I just am putting down. Now this is where, if you're not familiar with negative painting, the idea of painting the object by shaping the trees by painting the atmosphere behind it, the sky behind it. This is tricky. And so you can do it the other way. Like another way of doing this would be to paint that whole area back there and maybe wipe off a little bit. But then also maybe you just mix a slightly darker, you add a little bit more of the ultramarine blue in, and you come back and you paint some of the tree trunks in that are slightly darker, and you start working toward you as you have already laid in one of the lighter areas. So it's just a slightly different method, but you will be achieving a lot of the same things if you are careful with your values. Because really what this is about is just having distinct layers, but being careful with the values. And because a lot of the trees are not that far away, like there's kind of like, I don't know how many layers of trees, but there's the trees that are really close to us and we don't see any atmosphere in between us and them. At least it doesn't appear to me that there is. And then there's trees that are kind of on the edge of where the atmosphere looks like it's really starting to be thicker, the misty air. And that those trees are they're slightly lighter, but they're still pretty dark. If you just squint your eyes, they still come across as a fairly big contrast with that fog. But then there's another layer or two inside of the fog that's where those smaller, really subtle changes happen. And this light that's back there is reflecting on these rocks. And this is the other part of this that I think is important, and I think that it's worth exaggerating. You know, does the viewer of this painting know that the top of the rocks isn't maybe the rocks aren't as wet or glistening as I'm portraying them to be? No, they don't really know, right? And yet, will it potentially draw our eye in further into the painting if I can create a visual pathway for us? I think it will, right? And so this is also part of this where we're creating the scene, and we're making it what we want it to be. And that doesn't always veer off really far from the path. Like, I don't think that this is actually veering off too far from what is in front of us, because there is light hitting the top of those rocks. But it's just saying, hey, I wonder what would happen if we had just a little bit more reflected light. Could we make it feel like that light is kind of tumbling down toward us and coming across the top of those rocks? And so with that, this color, of course, is just still the ultramarine blue and some of the white, and it's the lighter. It's a little bit on the lighter end, and so I'm just looking around and kind of like seeing where are these rocks in the scene. And if I see a rock, does it make sense for that particular rock to have the light hitting it? And some of the rocks are covered in moss, so it makes more sense to create a brighter green to put on top of those rocky, moss-covered rocks. But hopefully it portrays the same thing. Now I'm going to come in with some zinc white here, and we'll put on some of this. This is the second round with this painting. I took a little break and then I'm coming back into it. So I'm just grabbing the zinc white and putting it onto my my brush right now, and just thinking through, okay, how am I going to go about this? But I wanted to get another layer of mistiness into this, and I wanted to come down into the painting down a little bit closer to us. So obviously there was a break in there where the paint had a chance to dry. Yeah, I probably stopped for half an hour or something like that, and so this is coming back into it. So just in case you're trying to do this, just make sure that you've allowed that paint to dry before you come back in with the zinc white, or you'll end up kind of getting all the other colors mixed in with it, and it could turn into something kind of interesting and kind of great, but you'll be taking a little bit of a chance. And for what we're going for today, I'd recommend just letting it dry completely and then using any zinc white. So that's another way to create that subtle difference in the background that we're talking about, because what the transparent glaze will do, and because it's a light one, it's going to just pull all those values a little bit closer together. It's going to, anything that was darker It's going to lighten it a little bit, and it's going to push it towards this, like more similar in the values. While I do that, I also am realizing, okay, now I need to continue to create the depth. And if everything is pushed back really far, we won't actually experience the sense of distance like we want. So I'm coming back in with some of these closer trees and thinking, okay, what is a good value for this that will make it distinct from the background, but still fit into the scene, because we're trying to create a unified painting here. And I have used a bit of a violet color. Now I'm mixing up a darker value because I want this to come and have some of those dark accents in it. This is a vertical surface, and the light is coming from the other side. So there's going to be this area. It might not be the darkest part of our painting, but there's room in there to create some depth and some darker accents, so that the light and the mist and the atmosphere that we're going for really is contrasted against these objects that are closer to us. And there are some trees on the right and other kind of bushy things or trees that are behind that initial tree on the left also. And I'm just thinking about, hey, how can we get this contrast? How can we push the back further back and pull some things toward us in the front? And so I'm grabbing this darker value again and thinking through, how do we layer these trees in here now? We have a bit of the mist in there already, and that's good. Now can we just kind of work in this foreground slash middle ground as it's going back, and create a little sense of variation here, but really kind of create the depth that we're looking for and the atmosphere in this painting that we're looking for. And I always love a little bit of variety. So sometimes it might not look like that big of a difference, but perhaps there's a little bit more blue in this mix, or the value is a little bit different, or maybe the value is the same, but again, like there's the mix of color in some of these things is slightly different. And so I'll add a little bit of that in. But I am thinking about, this, the biggest thing I'm thinking about still is, how do these values work together? And is there enough to draw our eye and work around the painting? And does it make sense how quickly or slowly the values recede? It's hard to say exactly how much distance is in between us and the mist, but it's definitely not like we're standing and looking at mountains that are like maybe miles and miles and miles away. We're talking about stuff that's much closer than that, but because of that atmosphere in the air, because we're looking through the water droplets in the air, we're having this greater sense of the distance, or it feels like there's distance in there. It feels like we can see layers in between us, but because it's that all of it kind of, I'm trying to at least portray this in a way that is believable. And so to kind of figure out, where are those boundaries, like how much does this recede back, and those subtle changes that will help our eye and our brain make sense of this scene. Like, okay, are the values on those dark accents on the rocks right now, the ones that are a little bit further back, are they good, or are they a little too dark? I put them in, and maybe they're fine, but maybe there's some other stuff that needs to happen. that will make them fine, right? Sometimes it's not the color that you put down, it's the surroundings around it. And so it's very easy to mistakenly think that something is the problem, like one object is the problem, when it's actually, maybe that part is accurate. Maybe it's the most accurate part. Maybe that value is the most accurate, but you have to adjust a lot of the other things just a little bit to make it make sense in the context of the whole painting. And you can see that this is just a matter of, for me, going around and looking at the entire painting, and I'm trying to tie in some of the darks with more darks. Let's, as I'm looking at the reference photo, I'm thinking, okay, there's actually little parts of dark, little dark accents kind of all over. And as they get added in, what you notice is that it actually does help some of the other things make a little bit more sense. Maybe they were standing out there earlier and it's not, working completely, but as more gets filled in, sometimes we start to see, okay, yeah, this is starting to make more sense. It's starting to work. And the main important thing to think about in all of this is subtle changes. Subtle changes in value. If we could do that in our work and master values, we could completely create the illusion of depth in our paintings, because so much of this has to do with subtle changes in value. And there's also, I don't know what the forest floor is covered with, but I love how it's kind of red. And so you can see me I'm mixing up some red and into my other mix, just creating it to be a little bit more of a warmer reddish kind of color. It's still not, like super vibrant red, but it's got a little bit more red, a little bit more yellow in it, so it's coming across more like a burnt orange color. And against the gray, the mid-tone brown gray that I had down as my base coat, my underpainting, it's kind of playing with that and working okay. So adjusting, if you get one part of your painting, the nice thing about what I was talking about with values and things is that if you get one part of your painting and you think, okay, that looks pretty good, like I mixed up that reddish kind of dirt, the floor of the forest color, and then as it goes back, I'm just going to add a little bit of white. I might adjust it one way or the other. Like I might add a little bit of blue in there, but the white is actually a fairly cool color, and it's because it's such a big part of the atmosphere in the very back. All I really have to do a lot of times is just add a little bit of white and maybe just a hint every once in a while of something else, but that is going to help push it back. And in this foreground too, you see I did mix in a little bit more white, but this is closer to us, right? So why would I be doing this? This is for areas of reflected light on that forest floor. It's not because it's far away, but it's because it's just getting touched with the light coming down from above and from behind. And it's like, would the rocks be the only thing that are reflecting a little bit of light? Well, we might not observe too much, but if we look closely on a day like this, we would see that, yeah, there's little leaves on the ground, and they're actually reflecting a bit of that light. And there's all sorts of little things that are around that are going to reflect a little bit of that light on a day like today. So that's why I'm putting that in. And you can see now I'm also grabbing, I've bunched together some of these trees, and I'm putting on, a color that I think is the right value. It's not so much about the actual colors that I mix together. There is some red, some yellow, or some blue in there, and some white. So it's kind of creating a grayish violet gray. And because I've got it already mixed in with some of the gray that was there before too. So, but really this is me thinking about the value more than the actual color. Because you could mix up a color that was way more blue, or way more violet, or even leaning towards the red, if you tied it together, and you could put that kind of as the background trees, and I believe that you could make it make sense if the values work. But I know I'm kind of harping on the values here, but the values are by far the most important part of this, to convey the scene, to convey the distance and the atmosphere. So we've got one of the things I like to do is kind of make those light accents and the light areas that are in the background, the highlights, as I'm just imagining the light, and I'm imagining the distance, and I'm thinking about, okay, there's going to be some places back here that are really hard to distinguish between the fog, kind of up in the sky, or the area of atmosphere, and then the light floor where it's reflecting that atmosphere and that light. And so that's why I'm coming in with, again, I'm trying to get another subtle color in here that we can put in as the forest floor that's further away. The area back there that's just distinguishing, again, layers. I'm hoping that I can create some layers by thinking, okay, there's trees back here, but there's also the ground. And maybe if I put some ground in, it will help differentiate where the trees are. Okay, I'm mixing up some ultramarine blue and mostly white. It's getting so where I'm trying to, again, do one of these subtly different values in the back, and carve out some trees, carve out some of those shapes that are so interesting, as we have like the trunk of the tree, you have branches. And so really it just comes down to trying to make them interesting. And the small change between the layers is, to me, one of the more fascinating and fun parts to paint, because it's such a small change sometimes that it's like you really are shaping the atmosphere, and as you're shaping the trees, you're able to put in this atmosphere. And they're really subtle things, and I don't think you can really do this with any other medium besides acrylic, because it's like one layer, it dries, you come back into it, you create a slightly different layer, you let that dry, you can come back into that, and you can create another layer. And yeah, could you do that potentially with oils? You could. I just think it would take a long time to do, because you wouldn't be able to immediately come back in. And so this is one of those places where, people are always, or at least often, trying to figure out ways to have softness. How can I, have a soft edge, or how can I, create this type of, atmosphere, or just a softer painting. I don't want to have big hard edges everywhere. Well, you can do things like wet into wet painting. You can do dry brushing. You can do things that will actually work on the edge, and that is a good thing. That's why we're talking about some of the stuff like smudging. It's also why I think we're using the zinc white, because it does some of that. But this is another thing where you can just get really dialed in on these values that are so close together that the the line, the actual edge could be crisp and clear, but because the values are very close together, it still comes across soft. And to me, that's just a really fun thing about painting in acrylics and layering it just over and over, coming back through. Because, and if you just, again, the reason I do it this way is it's partly the layering. You could do it the other way. You could start with the very lightest, and you could do branches on top of that, trees on top of that are just a little bit darker, and then you could do more trees on top of that that are just a little bit more dark. But the reason I do it this way is because I actually like the look of it in the end. It's a little bit more challenging to do because you kind of have to break into this part of your brain that works backwards and try to see things backwards from what you might normally do and paint it backwards. But if you can grab hold of it, I think in the end you get this really neat, it's a little bit of a stylized look. But if you start looking at that closely and you go like, ooh, that's cool, I like that. That's the reason I do it, is just because I like the look of it better than painting a tree on top of the background and then more trees on top of that tree. So it's just the style, the way it looks, but it doesn't mean that it's better. It's just one of my preferences. And people are always asking me why I don't paint the background first. So that's one of the main reasons. I like the way that it looks to do it this way. In fact, I would say that's the only reason I do it this way, because there's nothing about it that's easier. It takes more time and it's harder, but I like the way that it looks. So, but yeah, I mean, you just get into the way of thinking with it too. I know that earlier on when I first discovered it, I just remember seeing somebody's painting and I'm thinking, how did they do this? And I go, oh yeah, they painted the sky after. And it's just, man, it's mind stretching. It's kind of difficult to wrap your head around. But you can see that actually over the years I've become a little bit more of a uh, I go back and forth, because one of the things that I realize is that I can still paint on top of that with some positive shapes. And you can see I'm doing that right now. This is just slightly, it's a slightly darker color. It's just pulling it forward just a little bit. And it's working. I'm doing it on a case by case basis. But I actually got that thought because for a long time I really thought, no, you only want to paint from the foreground to the background. To myself, I had that in my mind. But then I started watching some different people and I started realizing if you do it right, if you're kind of careful with the way that you're putting on the paint, uh, you can kind of do this back and forth with it. And so that's really what I'm doing, is I'm still trying to convey the sense of values and the sense of distance in the right way, and soften those edges. Sometimes it doesn't look like I'm doing very much with one of those brush strokes, but really sometimes it's just a matter of grabbing an edge that might be a little bit hard and putting on just one little brush stroke that will make that transition a little bit easier. Again, more light on the rocks down below. And every time I put a brush stroke down I think, yeah, I think that this is good. I like the the light reflecting. So continuing to mix up little pieces of white. Now actually wash my brush out, but coming back with this warmer mix, muting it down a little bit here. I'm trying to decide where I want something else that will pull forward, differentiated from the background. Is it just I'm looking at the scene and thinking, yeah, there probably should be something else in here. One of these mid-ground trees, and then I'm also thinking about how because really this is about design and the way that the picture like works, and is our eye being led through the painting. And part of it is I'm realizing there's quite a bit of the trees and the branches on the left side, and I've been thinking about this big branch that comes in from the right, because it's a little bit it's just a little bit big, and I'm debating, do I want to come in with that type of thing, or would that be distracting? But this is where I don't do as much smudging in this picture as I've done in other ones where I'm trying to create atmosphere, but I do still do it. It's part of my painting practice, whether or not I'm trying to paint atmosphere. So I still do it, probably in every painting. I'm pretty sure that every time I finish a painting, I've got paint all over my fingers. I don't remember a time when I didn't. But like I said at the beginning, because it's one of the main ways that I say you can achieve this is, yes, it is a good way to get some feeling of atmosphere just by the edges being soft. So in a lot of ways, this painting has been a push and pull. It's starting with something that's in the mid-tone as the underpainting. It was coming and creating some of the dark accents that are closer to us so that it can help create this distance. Then, if you remember, I went back and I did the wash of zinc white. Well, actually, it was titanium white. I sprayed the background. I did some titanium white and some ultramarine blue, and then I kind of wiped it around with my paper towel. So in essence, we had the three areas. We had the foreground, we had the kind of middle area, and then we had some of the atmospheric background. And since then, it's really been pushing things, further back. It's been grabbing things and saying, okay, we need this to come forward more, or adding something in, like some of these trees. And even what I'm doing now is the same kind of thing. I'm adding more saturated colors in here. This yellow that I've grabbed, it's trying to pull some of this stuff forward, and the dark in there is also trying to pull us forward. And if you notice, there by adding all that dark over on the left side, I feel like it helped create a little bit more of a focal area that does go back. At least it removes some distracting lighter space over on that side, because it wasn't really doing anything over there, and I think that this helped. As I'm grabbing another dark value and coming across, I've decided, yes, I want to add this branch. I want to add a little bit more interest in here. Could there be some smaller details, some little branches, some things that again pull us, the foreground toward us, and help the background in essence then recede further back. just another layer, another few objects, these trees, these branches that are extending out across this path. And hopefully by if we do it well, we can keep the eye in the realm of the painting. We don't want to create brush marks or angles here that are leading us out towards the corner or something like that. We want to kind of help the eye always be moving through the painting but coming back into it. Sometimes we can do something that will work against that. So we want to pay attention to that. And here's another round of zinc white. Now, this one is, I'm being a little bit more careful at this point because I'm not really just putting it over everything. I'm being a little bit more careful with that and just putting it in that central area right now because I don't think that it needs to be everywhere. It does. I'm not trying to change the values of some of these trees that are closer to us again. I'm really only thinking about the background and those farthest away trees that we can still distinguish and see. Because otherwise, I'd be kind of going backwards with some of the work that I've done in terms of putting light zinc, the zinc white over some of these foreground trees. Smudging a little bit, using a paper towel to wipe things, create again, the softer edges where I want. A big part of painting is, at least in my methodology, I feel like is I do one thing and then I adjust. So it's putting a brush stroke down and then coming back with maybe a brush stroke that goes at a sideways and creating a softer edge, or it's putting a brush stroke down and taking my thumb and smudging it so that it creates that soft edge that I'm looking for. But a lot of times I think we we need to know where that we can start and stop with that. Sometimes we might try to be nuancing things too much. Sometimes we don't realize that we can adjust something just with one simple action after we do the initial action. And smudging and paper towels and things like that can be really helpful. And as you see, I've grabbed now completely pure titanium white. I don't think I've mixed anything in with this at this point, because what I'm doing is I'm going, okay, this is my highlight. This is the lightest value that I am going to put on. I know that it's probably not going to be in that many parts of the painting. So I'm okay using titanium white straight out. A lot of times I feel like it's going to allow some of the colors to come through a tiny bit. So, but I honestly, other people talk about things like you never want to use white straight, but you know, I don't know if I believe that. I actually like using white straight. And I think that sometimes it adds a really clean color. It's obviously as bright as you can get, and when you're dealing with these subtle nuances that are back there in the background, it's very, very helpful. So there we go, guys. We're going to take another look at this, more straight on, less glare here. But I hope this was fun for you. It was definitely fun for me. Thanks for joining me.
Okay. So there it is, you guys. There it is. The painting, and I'm reading some comments here, and I just want to say something because I hear a lot of people saying, "Oh, this is going to be the trickiest painting of this whole workshop. This is intimidating for me. I saw somebody say this is very scary, but I'm also excited. And so I just want to encourage you, because you can't fail. Like, what's the worst thing that happens, right? You try a painting that seems like it's going to be tricky, and it's hard and it's difficult, and you make some mistakes and you do some things. Well, what's the worst thing that happened? You grew. You tried something new and you grew, and you're taking strides forward and you're being courageous. So I just say that to encourage you all, because you guys are doing amazing. And so don't let something that might feel intimidating stop you from actually just doing it, because you have what it takes. And those actions of participation and just, hey, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this experience, I'm going to try to paint this, I'm going to put in the effort, that's where you actually grow. It's like when you're training in weight training or muscles or anything like that, it's like when your muscles get stretched and put, like, that's when you grow. So it's the same thing with art. And I want to remind you guys of where to go if you missed any of the other sessions, or you want to rewatch this. Make sure you just have this locked in, thelandscapeworkshop.com. You can also go to acrylicuniversity.com and you can find the link there down a little bit. And I also want to remind you that we have the prize session coming up on Monday. So you guys have the whole weekend. You can paint, you can submit your paintings. Just make sure you get them in by Monday morning, and we will be getting prizes and stuff ready for Monday night. And Monday night, Diana and I are both going to be painting together. So you've seen me paint a couple times, Diana has painted, but on Monday, we're actually going to paint at the same time. We're going to paint the same scene. So it's always a really fun event, because you get to see kind of how two different artists will approach the exact same scene. And it's always fun. We always have a great time. And in just a couple minutes, we're going to have this giveaway. It's going to be $200 gift card. But I'd love to get your permission, if I can. Can I just take a couple minutes to tell you about Acrylic University? I know that there's people, some of you might already know this, but there's others that I think are sitting there and going like, I wish I could know a little bit more about what Acrylic University is. So, like I asked you before, what if you were flourishing in a vibrant art community? What if you had encouragement in your creativity? What if you had confidence in your creativity? What if this could be you in a year? This year, I've painted 53 plus pieces, which is a record for me. And it all started with the Landscape Masterclass. It's been a rough year for our family, and I could easily have set aside an interest that gives me such joy. Grateful thanks to the AU staff and community for all the encouragement, excellent teaching, cooperative learning challenges, and kind prodding. Now, you might think that I made that up, but I didn't make that up. Like, that's legit email. That's people responding. Here's another one. Could this be you in a year? I've learned so much. Wow, mind-blowing. I went to school as an art major, but I've learned so much more with you guys than I did in school. My paintings are showing improvement, and even though it's hard and lots of work, it gives me something to look forward to each day. Remember how I was saying, isn't that cool to think like you're looking forward to painting? There's a challenge with it, of course, but I just get amazed sometimes. I think about, like, I love seeing people thrive. I love seeing people take something that they maybe had to set aside for a long period of time because they had other responsibilities. And they're good responsibilities a lot of times, but it just means that you can't pursue something that you really love. And then they get a chance to go, oh my goodness, this is my opportunity. Maybe kids have moved out of the house and you don't have that responsibility. Maybe it's you change jobs, or you retired, or maybe you just have more time, or you're just going to dedicate time. You realize like, hey, I don't want another year to go by. And I love seeing people thrive. And this is what it really takes to thrive, I think, is you need consistency. But who's ever struggled with consistency, right? I mean, this is the thing. Art is actually not meant to be, I don't think it needs to be as hard as sometimes we find it to be. But I think that the reason it can be so much better than what our experience is if you get the right community where you're not feeling like you're all alone, and you get the right coaching where you don't have to figure out what direction to go. Diana alluded to this earlier. Both of us have had the same experience, and so many of us have. It's like we just had to figure so much out on our own that we wish we would have had help with. But, I got to say that I was very lucky. Early on, I took a workshop with somebody who really gave me guidance that helped point me in the right direction. And I feel like it saved me so much time. Now, the thing was, it was just a workshop, but even in that 1 week, I took so many strides forward. I wish that he had an ongoing program that I could have been part of. Because after the workshop, I'd taken this giant leap forward, and I was feeling so great about everything. But then I was kind of like, oh, I have to remember, what did I do? But I had other questions, and I didn't know where to go with it. But that's what Acrylic University is, really. It's the combination of those things, the coaching, the community that helps bring consistency to you. Because I don't really believe in motivation. I believe in environment. Motivation comes and goes. But if you're just in the right environment, has anybody, isn't it fun to do this together this week? I mean, it's way better to me than just oh, I'm just going to go sit in my corner and try to do something all by myself. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't paint by yourself and have a good time. I'm not saying that, but we're made for community. We're made to, be in relationship with people, and it just makes it so much more fun. So the environment that you put yourself in can either help you be consistent, help you grow, or it can hurt that, right? And so what we're saying is, we want you to join this, because we know, we know what happens to people when they just show up and they become part of what we're doing. Since joining AU, I have painted 27 paintings. 27. I just can't stop painting. I don't really want to clean the house or go anywhere. I just want to paint. I feel like I've learned so much in a short amount of time. I even dream about painting. And guys, that's why we do what we do. That makes us so happy. And could that be you? Is this what you get inside of the membership? Every month, you're going to get a workshop with Diana. You've spent time with her already. But I would say that the sessions that we cram in here are about, they're probably, I don't even know. Diana's workshops are thorough. They're like this, and they're even deeper, but they're not faster necessarily. They're slower in a way. They're easier to grab hold of because you have longer time to sit with it, right? But you get to sit under Diana, who hands down is the best acrylic artist that I know, and the best acrylic artist teacher that I know. Like she is such a good instructor. She knows the medium from 35 plus years of using it. I mean, you can look at these books or these pictures. Picture is worth more than 1,000 words. So I guess that's why I called it a book. But I mean, you see the stories in these paintings of hers. So you're going to get access to Diana once a month in an amazing workshop. The second week of the month, you're going to get what we call the artist choice. And essentially that's guest artists that come through I know a lot of people, Diana knows a lot of people. We have a lot of connections with great expert artists all over, like Canada, the United States, just kind of all over, who will give their take on things. They will do demonstrations. They will show you the secrets that they have for how they do what they do. And it's just like, it's crazy. It's awesome. And can we give you even more? I mean, that's, to me, I'm like, sheesh, that's enough. And I look at a lot of things. I know what other people do in the world that we live in. That's all that you get from most memberships out there. Like, you're not going to get more than that. That's just where we're hardly even starting today, guys. The third week, you're going to get Discover Your Voice. This is a fun session that we do that is where you can actually get the reference photo at the beginning of the month. And the idea is, we want you to discover who you are. And a lot of times people get stuck with, I'm watching YouTube videos and I can, as long as the person's there, I can paint along with them. But man, I get really stuck outside of that. I have a really hard time figuring out how to take my photograph and turn it into a painting, or any reference photo and turn it into a painting. I can see when somebody else does it, but I don't know how to do it myself. And so what we did is we kind of reverse engineered this. We're like, okay, well, what would it look like if people had the reference photo, and instead of watching the lesson, they did the painting, and they worked through the things. Like they took the photo, they edited the photo, they cropped the photo, they did whatever they wanted to in their own like world, and then they like painted it, and then I did my lesson, and we looked at the way that I might approach it. You know, when I was in college, I got bad grades. And part of the reason I got bad grades was because I was there to play baseball. I didn't care about what I was learning very much at all. I just wanted to get through it. But years later, I went back to school, and I went back for something that I was really passionate about. And I just have to say that because I'd been working in that field, I'd been caring about it, I was all interested in it. And that's kind of the idea with Discover Your Voice. If you work through these things and you're like, man, oh, I was like trying to figure out how to deal with this issue. I painted it this way in mine, but then you get to come and see another way and maybe like ask questions that are specific to what you were kind of working through. That's what Discover Your Voice is. And the fourth week is we have a professional artist come and take a selection of paintings from our students and give really great, thoughtful critiques. These are recorded and you can look at them. Brian Buckroll is one of our main critique artists. He has done such a good job for us. Like, I mean, he will take the paintings, he will show you he'll talk about what he's thinking about. He'll show you what he's thinking about. And you can, sometimes it might be your exact painting that's getting looked at and you'll be like, oh my goodness, I can't believe that. But a lot of times too, it'll be like somebody else's painting that you're going, oh, that helps me because I painted a similar scene. I didn't understand the way that he's thinking about this. So guys, what if you get stuck? When you sign up today, because I know there's some of you today that you're like, I'm ready for this. When you sign up today, we're going to give you guys this also. We've got a bonus library that is absolutely filled with amazing courses. These are premium courses here. Acrylic 101, Color 101, Design 101, Perspective 101, The Color of Light and Shadow, The Still Life. I can't go into details on all of them. Just trust me. Each one of these is worth what you're paying for in your membership. Just like if we just isolated these out, like these are all incredible. Then we have something that we call the landscape modules. These are all like, they're not quite as long as the premium courses, but there are modules that look specifically at all these different subjects in the landscape. And so in the end, guys, it's like this thorough thing. You can go at your own pace. You don't have to feel like you're ever behind. You never have to feel like you're, like you can't keep up. You don't have to do the harder. If there's something that's like, oh, that's beyond me, you don't need to go there. You don't need to do that. We have stuff from the basics that you can go. I saw somebody, Gisela, I think, said, where I started at Acrylic 101, and I just worked my way through the foundation courses. I went in order. And we have a lot of people who do that because they know, I just want to get the very foundation of what I'm doing. I want to get that set, right? But you know where you're at. Other people say, I've got my foundation, but what I really need help with is this. And they jump into the premium courses that they're like, I need to learn how to paint a still life. I need to look at color and light and shadow. It's up to you, the very direction you go. What you're going to have is you're going to have access 24/7. You can watch these recorded lessons anytime that you want. You have live classes that are going to happen on a regular basis where you can participate, you can be in the chat, you can see what other people are doing and listening to what other people are up to. And you can ask direct questions, because at the end of the sessions, you have a chance, if we didn't get a chance to answer it in the chat, that you can ask direct questions. So, guys, another incredible quote. You should just take a screenshot of this and read it on your own. But the most important part, I actually believe this. It's the most important part to me because people are more important than videos, and and all the instruction in the world, like you might be able to participate and just grab things, but for so many of us, the community is like the glue that binds it together. And it's the part that says, man, this is awesome. I am so glad to be part of this. And I think for me, that really came true during the pandemic, because I was like trying to, we're all trying to make our way through that period of time. And I remember just being so thankful from my point of view. And this isn't from the members' point of view, this is from my point of view. But I was so thankful that we had a way to connect with each other that was like separate from all the restraints. We could do it. And I think that was where it really hit me, like, man, there's something pretty cool about what we're doing. And it's really cool for us because this is a connection point. So guys, you're doing awesome. Super glad that you're here. And I'd love to see you grow in all these things. And if I have an AU member in the house, I'd love to see you in the chat. Just say, hey, Jed's telling the truth here. He's telling the truth. But could this be you? This painting is like a miracle to me. I show this one every time. Just maybe I should change this out next time, Shannon. I don't know. But this painting is like a miracle to me. I can't believe how much I've grown with AU in just 1 year. Last September, I was such a scared puppy painter. So timid, afraid to make mistakes, afraid to mix colors, afraid to have fun. This painting was done in plain air. It was done outside, fearlessly. I stood there with the bugs swarming me, but I didn't notice because I was so in the zone. The design fell easily into place. My brushstrokes felt bold and loose. I pushed the colors to places I hadn't intended, and I love it. But best of all, I had fun. 1 year ago, I would have said, I don't know how to paint. I don't know what to do. Today, say, look what I can do. Just watch me. Thank you, Jed. Thank you, Diana. Thank you, Acrylic University. And fun note, Shannon met up with another friend this summer. They've met on through Acrylic University, but they got together and they were painting together. So what value is this? I broke it down on the sales page so that you can see the value that you're getting, because it's extremely worth the investment. And so basically the part that we'll provide coaching, we'll provide consistency, we'll provide a community. You, for your own sake, need to provide commitment. And what we're asking for isn't like too much, but what's it worth for you, right? To be able to take that stride forward, to be able to pursue that artistic passion that you've set aside for so long, to be able to have a direction and not wander aimlessly or try to figure it out on your own. I'm just hoping and laying this out for you so that you know, hey, this is here for you. For those of you who are interested, we are super glad. We will look forward to having you be part. You can also break up the lifetime payment plan in 3 monthly payments, and you can also apply for a scholarship, because we know that money can come and it can fluctuate, right? Like hard times come, a bill came up, my spouse is going through a hard time, I had to pay for these surgeries. Like, we know stuff comes up, but the desire sometimes doesn't always go away, right? Like, you're going, I really would like to participate in this, but I just can't make that commitment right now. Apply for a scholarship. We do our very best to meet you where you're at. So anyways, guys, I'm going to jump straight to this. I'm going to jump out of this. I've talked enough about that, but I just know that some of you want to know some of the specifics. You can find all of that on the landing page, the sales page for the membership. And so you can review any of that there. But I want to give this away, this $200 gift card. So those of you who are here, let's do this. Are you guys ready for this? Nina, congratulations. We are pumped for you. It's going to be great. I want to see if I'm ready. Woot, woot. Catherine Hawking, best money I have spent. Catherine, thank you for that. Alejandra. Woo. Congratulations.
Welcome, everybody.
Yeah, welcome. Okay.
So glad to have you.
I think that I see enough readies. Let's do this. $200 gift card is going to the wonderful, the incredible, the amazing, the marvelous Virginia Leckler. All right. So Virginia, make sure you write us there at support@acrylicuniversity.com, and we will make sure that we send out this gift card to you. And that's a really fun thing, right? Is to get a gift card that you can just go like, I'm going to get paints and canvases and I'm going to make this happen. So Diana, let's get Diana back up here.
Awesome.
Okay. So can we hear Diana? Oh dear.
Nope.
Dear. Okay, Diana plays this funny game. It's a funny joke that she plays on us, and it's the mime joke. No. Anyways, you guys, this has been super fun. Peter, do you have anything that you want to say? Because sometimes you have a perspective too that I've missed.
I don't think so. I think you did a really good job of, there actually is one question that I did want to answer. So somebody asked if we help people sell their artwork, and we don't directly have courses on art marketing and all that stuff, but you get so much direct exposure to Jen, Diana, who talk about that kind of thing sometimes. The guest artists will talk about it sometimes, but also we have many members in the community who are professional artists who do sell their work in galleries and stuff like that. And if you just post there, they're more than willing to help a lot of the times, and you can get really good, solid advice from people who really know what they're doing. It's hard to go wrong with this one, guys. I mean, you can get really solid info from incredible people no matter what you're looking for. So
awesome. Yay, okay. We can hear Diana.
You can hear me now. Good.
Yes. Are you ready for a Q&A?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So guys, if you have any questions, we will be here. And if you have questions, you can ask us about the painting. You can ask me about the painting. You can ask Diana about something she did last session. You can also ask us about the membership, and we'll be happy to try to answer any question that you have.
So if we have questions about the course, is there a way to get them answered beforehand? Yes. If you email our support team, support@acrylicuniversity.com, we'd be happy to answer questions for you.
And you might get it answered potentially by going to the sales page and seeing, because it does
Yeah.
lay out a little bit more there. You might have a question that's real easy. I don't know what your question is, but support can definitely answer it.
How do members connect with the community? Is it chat on the website or a group on Facebook? It is a group on Facebook. Yes.
Yeah, so
And
there's both actually. As I'd
yeah.
say, chat during any of the live events, we have the chat like we've been doing right here. And then in the Facebook group, you have the ability to, share your work, connect with other people, see what they're doing, all of that.
Yes.
That's been fun. I've really enjoyed the Facebook group, and I've met a lot of people live from it. It's been great.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Okay. Do you teach? Okay. So I see this one. Do you teach abstract? Diana, do you want to answer that?
Well, I did do a course in the abstracted landscape. And so it was just wrapping your ideas around how you can use like a regular landscape photograph to propel you into more abstract painting. And that is online that you can watch. And pretty much in the beginnings of a lot of my classes, I will show you how to create the abstract bones of a painting before you begin. And then you can just take it off in any direction you want to go. So that's all about design. And my design class covers that.
Do you have to be a member? Oh, sorry. I'll just answer this one real quick. Yes, the group is members only. It is a members only group. Go ahead, Jed.
The Facebook group is, it's members only for sure. But that helps it be very focused and we also share a lot of links in there and stuff like that it's just for stuff that you pay for. So
yes.
Will paintings that are uploaded be evaluated for prizes at some point? Okay, Martha, let me clarify, because just by submitting a painting, just by making that effort, you are eligible to win prizes. We are not going to go through and grade your paintings or jury the paintings at all. Just because that's not really this isn't a competition in that way. It's a challenge. And the challenge is just do the work, right? And then submit the work so we can see that you've done the work. But it's not that kind of competition.
Do you care if I go through and answer some real quick, Jed?
Yeah, answer this one first.
Yes. Is there a time limit for signing up for the membership? Yes. It's next Wednesday, right? End of day on the 27th. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or is it Friday? Okay.
No, it's Wednesday night.
Perfect. So Wednesday night, September 27th. Let's see. Is there going to be another portrait challenge? Yes, there is another amazing portrait challenge coming from Diana in October, I believe.
Yes.
What basic colors can you get away with purchasing in professional paints to save money? Yellow and white. The rest you can get in student grades and do just fine. Does the membership include the various major challenges? No, those are a separate product. How do I get past never really liking my own painting? I'll let you guys do this one.
Consider mini wins. When you first start, there's a lot to learn, and it's really hard when you're comparing yourself with other people, especially, you can see other people are farther on their painting journey than you are, and you think my painting is terrible. But did you win something in this painting? Did you learn something? Write it down in bold letters and put an exclamation mark. There was a win. I learned how to soften a cloud edge. I learned how to paint a tree trunk. Whatever your mini win was, celebrate it, and you will end up learning to love your paintings.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I think that the biggest part of that is really comparison. At least I think two things: the celebrate little wins and comparison, and also know that we're always hardest on ourselves. And that's just something that is difficult for many of us to see the good things in our own paintings, but we can see good things in other people's paintings. And so sometimes I think that is best combated by having other people in your life that can say, no, actually, you did this really well. And that's a big part of where the community is helpful.
Mm-hmm. Can you sign up month to month? Yes, absolutely. How do you find the senior discount? We don't have a senior discount, but we do offer scholarships for people that need assistance. So you can find that on the sales page. Okay, there's a lot of other
I see
questions. Yeah, go for it.
Deanna asks, can we see everyone else's paintings? And I think I'm not sure if you're referring to the workshop or the membership, but in the membership in the Facebook group, anybody can paint and share their paintings there. In the workshop here, we have a page where you submit your painting. So if you go to the dashboard and you find submit, you can go to that page and you can scroll down as far as you want. You can see everybody's paintings there.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, let's see here. Can you sign up month to month? Yes, you absolutely can. Can your paints be mixed with gold and acrylics? Yes, as long as they're not golden opens, you should be totally fine.
I see this question from Alen. Later, I can afford better, so can I join anytime? What I would say is we have open times that are very limited. So this is what, like 5 days or something right now that you can join. And so I would encourage you, if this is a hard time, apply for a scholarship and see, because that's probably going to be a better opportunity for you than waiting. There's always a chance that we'll open the doors, every once in a while, but like we really don't do that very often. And I don't even know if we did it at all last fall. So you'd have to wait through till January before we do another one of these. And then after that, it's another like few months before we do it again. So I just encourage you to apply for a scholarship.
Yes. Can I start with a monthly and later change to a lifetime? Yes, you certainly can. And
yeah,
yes, you can.
And actually, I'll say, I should have said this, but that's what I encourage people to do, because I didn't show you this, but it's a money back guarantee. Like you have 30 days to sign up, or you have 30 days once you've signed up to test it out and say, is it worth it? Like you could put $49 in there and you could go 29 days and 23 hours and you could write an email and say, guys, I didn't get it. I didn't get anything out of this. And we'd send you your money back. We're not here to, try to keep, like we want you to feel as confident as possible.
Yes.
Because we don't have hardly anybody say it wasn't worth it. Like, I don't know if I've ever had anybody sign up for a month and then ask for their money back. Like, I'm serious. Like, I don't think I've ever had that happen.
Yeah,
so we're so confident. But then if you take that step within a month, if you sign up for an annual membership, which is a better deal, like you'll save 2 months, or if you sign up for the lifetime, which is by far the best deal, you will get that credited, 100% of that credited towards that. So the $49 would go to whatever you're going to upgrade to.
Yes. If we sign up, can we cancel anytime? I want to do this, but not want auto pay? Yes. You can cancel anytime.
Cancel at any time,
no
but
contracts.
by signing up on the program, it will auto deduct it unless you change it, unless you go in and change that. But
yeah.
Just saying, but you can cancel at any time. Like if you're like, well, I use it for 3 months and I don't want to use it anymore. Like, you can cancel. There's no problem with that.
If I have a yearly subscription already, can I sign up for a lifetime when it's expired? Yes, absolutely, 100%. Okay, so this question came through a couple times. I was going to get back to it, but I did miss it. Do you have tips about mixing colors? I have a hard time getting the colors right.
Diane?
Well, that is really, I have a whole course on that at Acrylic University. It's like hours and hours long. And the main tip for mixing colors is really start with your 3 basics. And, red, your yellow, blue, white, and black. And just practice mixing those colors together. Practice mixing color wheels. Practice, seeing and writing down what happens when you put blue with orange, when you put white with blue with orange. really practice your colors. Get out a paper plate and just practice on that if you are worried about it costing too much. But the only way to really see it is to see it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey,
thanks,
I
Diana.
have one here to show. Yeah, that's a
Yeah,
good,
go for
that's
it.
the place to go if you want to see more and sign up. And then this says, are we still eligible? This is talking about the prizes for Monday. Are we
Mhm.
still eligible even if we can't dial in on Monday? Yeah. So if you submit a painting, you will be eligible for a prize. You don't have to be there Monday, but it would be great if you are there Monday because we're going to have such a good time. But I'm pretty sure that in the past we've emailed the winners
Yeah.
for that. And
Are the past journey
okay.
months no longer available? If you were a member up to September, then you should have the past journey months. If you sign up now, you're not going to get all the journey months retroactively from before. You'll just start with September plus all the bonuses like perspective, color, acrylic 101, all that good stuff.
Yeah.
Ruth says, if I joined last February and want to turn my membership to lifetime, can I get some credit? And yes, email us. Let us know where you're at with that in terms of like your timing and stuff, because I think that we have some kind of way to work that. And I think who asked? Oh shoot, I can't remember. Oh, where do I go for a scholarship, please? Okay, just a second. Let me figure that out.
Yeah, scholarship is on the sales page. There's a button for that. I signed up for the month in 27 days. Ron, email the support team at acrylicuniversity.com and we'd be happy to help you out. Homework due time on Monday, probably like 2 p.m. Pacific, somewhere in the afternoon. We usually take all the submissions and put them in the wheel a couple hours before the class. So our membership fees in US dollars or Canadian dollars, they are in US dollars, but we also have a Canadian, we have a separate Canadian offer for Canadians. And that's also on the sales page at the bottom under the pricing. So,
and if you see, this is the actual link, but just make sure you put grow.acrylicuniversity.com scholarship. It's easier just to go here and click on the link at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier.
Sales page, where's the sales page? It's right there, acrylicuniversity.com/membership. And I'll actually pin it up there for you guys right now. Go ahead and pin a comment. Perfect.
Okay, so somebody's asking about the cutoff time on Monday to turn in homework. That's Monday morning. So that would be 8 o'clock Pacific time, which would be 11 o'clock Eastern time. So stay up all night and just get it in right before. That's what a lot of people do. I've seen people turn it in at like 7:50.
Sharon, welcome. Welcome to Acrylic University.
Yay.
Yay.
Peter, what time does the party start Monday? 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. That's when Jen and Diana will be painting side by side, and yeah, we'll kind of celebrate, have one last hurrah. It'll be awesome.
It's really fun to watch the two of us paint side by side because we paint so differently. I think you'll be encouraged because it's okay then for you to paint differently too.
Yes. What is the social media hashtag?
Oh shoot, I didn't show that. You got it?
For the landscape workshop or?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just hashtag landscape workshop, right?
It's hashtag landscape workshop. It's acrylic landscape 2023.
Acrylic landscape 2023. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll put that up there.
What will we be painting on Monday? Okay, I see that. Oh yeah, there you go. That's the hashtag acrylic landscape 2023. And this, whoopsie. Oh, okay. Well, can you say what again? Zinc white is fluid paint tub or tube? Well, it's zinc white is just the pigment. And so it comes in a tube, it comes in fluid. You can get it different ways. It also can be called mixing white, but it's a white that is transparent. When you compare it to titanium white, that is a very opaque white. This is something that you can see through a lot easier. This is what I'm trying to get to. What will Jed and Diana be painting on Monday? One of Diana's photographs that she took, which I can't even remember what it is right now.
Well, I've got a photo of it, but it probably won't show up there. It's like a little cabin, a stream, some trees, mountains in the back. It's really gorgeous. Central Washington.
Yeah, it's going to be really fun. I'm looking forward to painting that. So
me too.
It's going to be a good time.
If we can't come on Monday, will we be able to watch the video so that we can paint later? Until end of day Wednesday, you can watch all the replays from the workshop, and then they'll go and only members will be able to watch the replays after Wednesday. Although, actually, I think we leave the celebration up there.
The celebration will stay, so that one will stay for sure.
Just keep in mind, we don't do as much instruction. It's not as instruction heavy. It's more like Jen, Diana paint, and we just talk with chat more. So,
it's fun.
Just so that you expect that. Yeah, it is really fun.
It's a painting party.
Do we need professional grade for that white too, or only for titanium white and yellow? I'm assuming they're asking, do you need professional grade for like fluid or whatever?
For zinc white.
Yeah.
For zinc white. I think they're saying, I mean, I don't even know if you can get zinc white, but I don't know. You probably don't need, in my opinion, I would say you don't need it, because a lot of the reason I get it is because it is transparent. And so if it's a student grade paint, it'll probably just be a nice transparent, kind of version of it. But
yeah.
Do you have any thoughts on that, Diana?
I think student grade paints are very transparent. They're almost like, window paints or something. They don't have a lot of pigment in them. So you could probably get away with student grade titanium white as
you probably could in some ways. Be closer.
Just don't have much pigment in them at all.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny. This is what somebody just said. My basics grade titanium white is about as transparent as my professional grade zinc white. That's hilarious. Yeah. Okay. Well,
are the live classes normally during the week, and what time? They are during the week, and they are at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, or
Fridays.
1 p.m. Yeah, Fridays. Sorry, Fridays, 1 p.m. or 10 a.m.
They're always recorded, and you can, if you miss them, you can always go back and see them recorded. But it's like live because you can get in the chat.
Exactly.
Yes. Do you ever use glazy medium? Oh, sorry.
No, you're good.
Do you ever use glazy medium for atmosphere? I mean, I would think that, I'm just thinking about myself personally. Zinc white is kind of like my version of, if I'm trying to do something like that, but yeah, I could see if I wanted to add in a different color, something like that. I didn't want it to be white necessarily. I might use some kind of glazy medium and just thin the paint down that way.
Yeah. Are there ever any in-person meetups? Yes. And do you have an app? So,
okay, good question.
We don't have an app yet, but we are working on it, sort of. The platform we're using is going to let us, hopefully sometime in the near future, have our own app, and we're really excited for that. In-person meetups, we don't have them officially most times, but we have members inside the group that organize their own meetups all the time. So
yes, and we are starting to, we're putting a chat in our Facebook group where it'll be for people in an area. So if you want to participate in something, and like you can say, hey, I live in the Southeast and I'm just wondering if there's anybody around me, there'll be a chat. So we're going to help facilitate the meetups in that way, but we're not going to organize the meetups in that way. But we've had lots of people get together, lots of people that have had fun days out painting, doing things on, just because they met and they got to know each other, and they realized that they lived close enough together to, drive half an hour or 3 hours or whatever it takes to do this painting trip together. So we definitely encourage that. And I would say this because somebody else asked about, do you ever do live workshops? And so we have, I'm trying to think. Last summer I did too, but we just moved into a place, like we have a facility now that we can actually do more live events, and so we're hoping. It just needs some work. It needs a little bit of kind of preparation, but I'm really wanting to have a live workshop with Diana. I want to have my own. I want to do things together. I'd love to be able to invite members to be able
Yeah.
to come maybe and have a retreat. I don't know exactly, but
But
yes,
no promises. We're still in
no
the
promises.
yeah. But we have thought about that a lot, and it is
Yeah.
something we are excited about incorporating as we grow.
And look at that. Jamie just says, don't tell Jed, but long-term goal.
uh
Yeah. I mean, I'm
AU
all for that.
convention, AU con.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well, you guys, it's been super fun, and I know that
It
you
has.
might still have questions. Come back Monday. You can ask more questions then. Ask support at acrylicuniversity.com if you have any other questions. But for all of us, me and Peter and Diana, we're just so thankful for you. And we hope that we will see your lovely work coming in over the weekend. And we're rooting for you, and we'll look forward to seeing you guys on Monday.
All right. Love you guys.
Bye,
Bye.
everybody. You're loved and believed in.